Now we are moving to the last part of quadratic factoring, where we have a quadratic trinomial where the leading coefficient is no longer 1. And we can't factor out a greatest common factor and make it 1. So we're going to combine the AC factoring method, which is the method we learned on Monday, and the factoring by grouping to help us do this. So step 1, it's always good to list out our A, B, and C. So we're going to use this quadratic here, 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. A is 2, B is 7, C is 3. So we want two numbers that multiply to give us 6, that add together to give us 7. So we want them to multiply to be 6 and add to be 7. So obviously that's going to be 6 and 1. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. And we call that number, I like to call it the magic pair. So we're going to, instead of going straight to the factors like we would if our leading coefficient was 1, because this leading coefficient is not 1, we can't do it that way. So what we have to do is take the middle term, that's 7x, and we're going to bust it up, expand it, using those two numbers that we come up with, this magic pair, 6 and 1. So we're going to rewrite 7x as 6x plus 1x. And then from there, we factor by grouping, just like we did on the first part of this, part 1 of this video. So we're going to group those two terms together, 2x squared plus 6x, group the 1x plus 3 together, factor out a common factor of 2x here. That leaves us with 2x times x plus 3. And then we factor out the common factor of 1 here. That leaves us with 1 times x plus 3. So then we have the shared factor of x plus 3, and then the leftover part of 2x minus 1. So that's how 2x squared plus 7x plus 3 factors. Now remember, what we're doing is we're reverse multiplying. So if we were to take x plus 3, 2x plus 1, multiply those together, 2x squared plus 6x plus 1x plus 3, we get 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. The whole point of what we're doing is to take this and to break it down into its two factored components. So let's try another one together. A is 3, B is 10, C is 8. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 24, that add to give us 10. 3 times 8 is 24, B is 10. So those two numbers would be 6 and 4. 6 times 4 is 24, 6 plus 4 is 10. So now we're going to take that 10x squared and we're going to split that up into 6x plus 4x. And we're going to group. So notice 3x squared, 10x, 10x plus 8 plus 8. So I've just rewritten that polynomial. I haven't changed it, just rewritten it. Now I'm going to group the first two together, the second two together, common factor of 3x, common factor of 4, and then they share the x plus 2, and the leftover part is 3x plus 4. So the shared factor is here. Bring down the shared factor. The leftovers become the second factor. Let's try another one. Identify A, B, and C. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 60, that add to give us 16. It's going to be 10 and 6. So I'm going to take that 16x and I bust it up to be 10x plus 6x. And then I group. Group the first two terms together, group the second two terms together, and factor, common factor. So the first two terms have in common a 2 and an x. So that leaves me with 2x plus 5. Second two have a 3 in common. 2x plus 5. And my factored form is 2x plus 5, the shared factor, plus the leftovers. Now the next one I'm going to do it using the area model, because some of you might, that's exactly the same problem. So that's good. We'll just do the exact same problem like we did a minute ago. Going to start out exactly the same way. So we're going to look for two numbers that multiply to give us 60, that add to give us 16. But then if we're doing it using the area model, we're going to have 4x squared here, 15 here, and then we're going to use this magic pair. Again, we're going to bust up the 16x, and we're just going to break it up to be 10x plus 6x. It doesn't matter whether the 10x goes in the top right or the 6x goes in the bottom left. You could just as easily put the 6x here and the 10x here. It doesn't make any difference. And then we just look to see what the rows and columns have in common. So these two terms have in common a 2x. These two terms have in common a 5. These two terms have a 2x in common. These two terms have a 3 in common. All of the signs are plus, so it's going to factor to be 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 5, which is exactly what we got right here for the same problem. Take a few minutes and try these on your own, and then come back and check and see how you did. So hopefully you've had a chance to work on some now. A is 6, B is -5, C is -4. Looking for two numbers that multiply to give me -24, that add to give me -5. That's going to be 8 and 3, but the 8 has to be negative. I'm going to do this area model method. So 6x squared minus 4, and we have minus 8x plus 3x. And I look to see what they have in common. They have a 2x. And you don't have anything in common, so they have a 1. And these have a 3x, and these have a -4. So factored form is 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 1. Next one, A is 2, B is -3, C is -9. Looking for two numbers that multiply to give me -18. These two multiply together that add to give me -3. That's going to be -6 and +3. I'm going to do this by grouping this time. So I'm going to rewrite -3x as minus 6x plus 3x minus 9. So all I've done is I've just busted that up to be two different terms. And now I'm going to group and group. These two have in common a 2x. So I factor out the 2x, and that leaves me with x minus 3. These two have in common a 3. So I factor out the 3, and that leaves me with x minus 3. And my factored form is x minus 3 times 2x plus 3. And that's my factored form. Moving over to the next one, we have a equals 3, b equals -2, c equals -5. Two numbers that multiply to give me -15 that add to give me -2. Well, -15 is 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. One has to be positive and one has to be negative. So it's going to be a -5 and a +3. And I'm going to use the area model this time. So I have 3x squared plus 3x minus 5x minus 5. And the first row, these have a 3x in common. These have a -5 in common. These have an x in common. These don't have anything in common. Double check my signs. I know this has to be a -5 because they share a negative sign. If I want this to be a -5, this must be a +1. So my factored form is 3x minus 5 times x plus 1. And that's my factored form. The last two, a is 6, b is -13, c is 6. Two numbers that multiply give me positive 36. That add to give me -13. Let's see, is 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. So positive 36 means they're both going to be positive or both negative. Since this is a -13, they've got to both be negative, so it's -4 and -9. Now I'm going to bust up the -13 in the middle to be minus 4x minus 9x. And then I group. First two together, second two together. Pull out your common factors. Here you have a 2x in common. Here we have a 3 in common. So I factor out a 2x, and that leaves me with 3x minus 2. And then 3x minus 2. So then it's my shared factor and then the leftover part. And that is my factored form. And last one, a is 4, b is 12, and c is 5. Two numbers that multiply to give me 20, that add to give me 12. It's going to be 2 and 10. And I'm going to bust up the 12x to be 10x plus 2x. And again, these two that I use come from that magic pair right there. So I'm going to group and then factor out a common factor. These two share a common factor of 2x. So that leaves me with 2x times x plus 5. And these two don't have anything in common, so I can always factor out a 1. So then we have a shared factor of 2x plus 5 and a leftover factor of 2x plus 1. And that is my factored form. And that is your instruction on factoring by grouping. This really does just take time. It takes practice. So the more you do, the better you'll get at it. And I know I'm kind of weird, but I actually enjoy factoring. It's kind of fun. So I hope you found these videos helpful, and I hope you'll take advantage of some of the practice assignments that you'll get in the next day or two.